Hello, I pray that your Sunday was filled with spaces and places of joy, of peace, of happiness. I haven't been on here for a while, so it's good to kind of be back. This will be a quick video. And today, and the title is Asking the Hard Questions Anyway. Ask the hard questions anyway. Today I went to the Holocaust Museum, and I'd never been there before, and it was quite an experience. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna do a reveal with you all. So when you first go, they give you this card, and at the end, they let you know if you would have been one of the people who the Germans had determined was not pure Aryan, was not good enough. The card will tell you if you lived or died, but I'll share it. I haven't even looked at it myself. We'll look at it at the end of this video. But anyway, one of the questions they ask when you first walk in, or a statement they make, it's about how sometimes there are no answers, but there is much importance in asking the question. And there may be answers, but maybe it's too late to get an answer, but it's still important to ask the question. And it made me think about in our own individual lives, why sometimes it's really, why don't we ask what we consider hard questions? And you may say, okay, so where are you going with this? So, let's say for some people, we're afraid to ask, what we consider hard questions because we don't want to appear stupid. We don't want to appear like we don't know what's going on. We don't want to feel vulnerable. So for a lot of people, when they're driving, instead of listening to the GPS or previously asking for directions if the GPS is off, they'll keep driving around in circles because they don't want to ask the question. And that's not necessarily a hard question, but for them, for someone whose pride is so big, whose ego is so large, it becomes a hard question. Sometimes the issue of asking the hard question, those in our intimate relationships, can be about anything. How many of you know or have experienced this, being in relationship with someone and you have a question? They do something that causes you to pause or may make you angry or you just really don't like, but you don't ask them about it. You determine in your head, well, they must have did this for this particular reason, therefore I'm going to do that. And you go off on this whole long trail, but you never asked the question. You never said, what did you mean by that? You never said, can you explain a little bit more? You never said things like, where were you? You never said things like, who were you with? You never asked a question about, do you still love me? You never asked a question about, what did you do with your money? You never asked a question, and here's a big one, are you having an affair? And a lot of times we don't ask those questions because we don't want to hear the answer. And that's what I really want to leave you with. Deep down inside, some of those hard questions, we have an inkling of what the answer might be. And I'm going to emphasize might because we may not be right. That's why we ask questions. But sometimes we are so afraid of what the answer might be that we don't bother to ask it at all. And unfortunately, a lot of people are in relationships or situations that are really not very healthy. They really are not promoting growth. They are leaving people feeling confused. They're leaving people feeling abused. They're leaving people feeling unwanted and unloved, not noticed but how should I say this? They're feeling those things, and it may all be very well relevant. But the one thing they haven't done is they haven't asked the question. They haven't asked, are you happy with me? They haven't asked, when I come home and you call me out of my name, why do you do that? Have you thought about how that might affect me? They haven't asked the question. You know, many people, it's not even that deep. Many people, when they come together, they don't ask hard questions like, do you have a job? You know, what is your credit score? What is your credit history? Have you ever been incarcerated? There are a list of questions that sometimes we choose not to ask because when you first meet somebody, you're in lust or you got those good feelings going on, and you don't want to disrupt that by asking questions that may give you information that may cause you to pause. And there's nothing wrong with information. That's what I really want to tell you. There's nothing wrong with getting the information, but it's important to get it. It's important to ask whatever you consider the hard question might be. And why is that important? Because it helps you to be able to make healthy decisions. It helps you to better be able to understand the person you're dealing with. Why is it important? Because it helps you to at least not going off on some trail that has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but at least you have good information. It also may help you to be a little bit more compassionate. It may also help you to be a little bit more kind. Sometimes we make assumptions about people and we don't ask the question. Sometimes we make assumptions, but we don't ask. We don't know people's backstories. We don't know their history. So I just really want to encourage you that if you find yourself wondering a lot, if you find yourself making up stories in your head because you've decided that when this person did this, it must mean that or it must mean the other, I encourage you to ask what you may consider is a hard question. You're not going to die. You're not going to fall out. You may hear something you don't want to hear, but that's not a bad thing in itself either. It just gives you good information so that you can make healthier decisions. And you may say, well, I asked the hard questions and they just continue to lie. Well, that's still good information. If when you ask the hard questions, you cannot get the same answer that, each time you ask, they're very evasive, at least that gives you information on how you want to proceed. But it's been my experience a lot of times when we ask the hard questions, it promotes conversation. It promotes communication. It helps us to be able to see the humanity in the other person. It helps us to be able to be empathetic. And it also helps us to be able to set good boundaries for ourselves in whatever way that we may need to. So I'm going to let you all go. I am tired, but I did say I'm going to see if I lived or died. And unfortunately, I dropped the card, so hold on. Okay, so apparently on the last page of the card, it's supposed to tell me if I lived or died. And I actually don't see it. Yeah, it doesn't tell me. So I'm going to make the determination that I lived. I'm going to actually, I lived, okay? My name from picking this card was Gisela, and I lived, and I survived, and I came to the United States in 1947 and had a business in New Jersey. And so that's good to know. But my heart is still heavy for those who did not survive. If you ever get a chance when you come to DC, if you want to do research, please look into it. But on that note, because I want to go into a whole nother video, I just want to say that have a wonderful day. Ask the hard questions and do something that makes you feel good. Love you all. Bye-bye.